Hello everyone, and welcome to our informative session on how to complete your year-end payroll finalisation in Xero. My name is Lauren Lambden and I am one of the accountants here at VI Partners. I have close to 10 years experience in Xero and I've been a VI Partners for just over 9 years now. Today, we will be taking you through a detailed step-by-step on how to complete the end-of-year payroll finalisation in Xero for 2023. Now, this was previously known as completing your payment summaries or group certificates, if you can remember back a few years. Essentially, it is just finalisation of all your year-end payroll for your business. This then allows your employees to complete their individual tax returns and close off that financial year from your business. Today's webinar is only for Xero clients and those clients who are enrolled in Single Touch Payroll. If you are not enrolled in Single Touch Payroll reporting, and you should be, as this is now a legal requirement by the ATO, please do contact our office and we can provide you with further information on how to get started. If you do have any questions or require further assistance in completing your end of year STP finalisation, please reach out to our office and our team will be also happy to assist you. Now let's dive straight into it. So in today's session, we'll be covering the due date you need to be aware of that you must have your STP finalised before. We will be taking you through how to check your payroll settings, how to reconcile your payroll accounts in Xero to ensure that no mistakes are made in the STP data, how to finalise your STP data in Xero, how to process any adjustments required, and finally, we'll conclude with some important payroll items that you should consider and some payroll-related updates that you need to be aware of as we head into the 2024 financial year. The due date for submitting your finalised STP year-end payroll data to the ATO is the 14th of July, 2023. Now, you don't need to provide any physical documentation to your employees, as this data is made available to them via their personal MyGov account. Okay, the first step is just a little bit of housekeeping, and it's all around checking your settings in Xero. The settings that you should take the opportunity to check before you move any further with your STP finalisation, first of all, is your organisation settings. Check the legal trading name, the ABN, and the postal address details are all correct. Now, this information can be found in your general settings section of your Xero file. You should also take the opportunity to review the pay item settings. These can be found in the advanced settings of your Xero file. You should review the earnings tab to ensure that earnings pay items are correctly assigned. Check the leave tab to ensure that each leave item has a leave category assigned. And check the deductions tab to ensure that the deductions are being reported correctly. Once all those pay items have been reviewed, you can move on to your employee settings. Best practice here is to run the employee contact details report. That you can use to check the date of birth and postcode for your employees. So again, that is the employee contact details report. Once you've checked the date of birth and postcode for those employees, you should also check in their employee record that each employee has an employment type, an income type, and a tax scale set up. If you haven't transitioned to STP Phase 2 yet, we do also have a number of helpful webinars that we can make available to you. So please do contact our office for a copy of these recordings. That completes all the back-end housekeeping of reviewing the settings. And now you're able to move on to step 2 of the finalisation. So step 2 is all around reconciling the payroll transactions to our payroll accounts. This is a really important step as it does give us a chance to identify any discrepancies within our payroll that could cause an employee to receive an incorrect end-of-year income statement. And this will also prevent any amendments needing to be created in the future and ensure that we just submit your data once and once only. The first thing that we need to do is check that all pay runs for the financial year have been posted and have a payment date within the financial year. Our STP finalisation is based on the payment date. That's really important. So what you need to remember is if, for example, you have a pay run, it's dated the 30th of June 2023, and you want that pay run to be included in the 2022-2023 financial year, then that payment date can't be, say, the 1st or 2nd of July 2023, because it won't be included. That payment date needs to be before or on the 30th of June 2023 for it to be included in this financial year's pay run and end of year payroll submission. So once you have checked that all the pay runs have been processed and that they have the correct payment date, you need to confirm that all the pay runs have been filed to the ATO with STP. So in the pay run section, you'll be able to see a list of all the pay runs that have been completed for the year. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see a big red cross on a number of pays that have been submitted for this client. You can see that the STP filing column is either overdue or pending, that red and grey field. That's what we don't want to see. If that is the case, then those pay runs won't be included in your year-end finalisation submission and they'll be missed. What we do want to see is the right-hand side of my screen with the green tick, where we have these nice green filed status against each of the pay runs. So once you've confirmed that all the pay runs have been filed for STP purposes, you should confirm that all the wages have been paid through the business bank account, as well as all the other payroll related transactions, such as pay-as-you-go withholding, super, all those things, and that they have been reconciled. So if you still have items to reconcile in your bank reconciliation screen, please complete this before moving any further. Okay, we can now extract the reports to reconcile our payroll accounts. So today we'll be running the payroll activity summary report and the trial balance report to reconcile our data. You can see from the table that's just appeared that some items from our payroll activity summary should match certain items on our balance sheet report. So total earnings should match total wages and salaries, total super should match total superannuation, and total tax should match total pay-as-you-go withholding payable. So there are our two reports, payroll activity summary and trial balance report. And these are the things that we need to match up. So let's get into a live demo of running these reports and checking those two corresponding amounts. So I'll just click into our demo company. Here's our demo company. First off, we need to start by generating those two reports. So from the dashboard, you can click on the accounting tab and reports. Now from here, you can use the search bar in the top right-hand corner to search for that report that we want to generate. So the first one was our payroll activity summary report. Just wait for that to load. Okay, we'll leave our employees to all and we'll change the date range to be this financial year. You can also select the date range if you feel more comfortable going 1 July 2022 to 30 June 2023. We'll update. That's our report there. Now we're going to run at the same time that trial balance report. So I'll open our reports into another window for us to do this. And again, I'm using the same type of thing where I'm searching through all of our reports for that trial balance. Wait for that to load. We'll change the date range to be 30th of June 2023, because that's the financial year we're doing our STP finalisation for, and update. Okay. So now what's helpful is we can split our window to see both of the reports at once to make that comparison process easier. So if you click on your keyboard, the window icon and an arrow, we can split those two reports, or you can print them if that's easier for you. So now that we can see both those reports, at payroll activity summary and our trial balance report, we can look at comparing those accounts that I talked about in our previous slide. So first of all, we're going to look at the total earnings on our payroll activity summary report, and this amount needs to match the total wages and salaries amount on our trial balance. So here it is here, our total earnings is 40,200. So we'll scroll down to try and find our wages and salaries account. Here it is here. And we can see that those two amounts match up. So 40200 and 40200. So that works. Next, we'll look at the total super on the payroll activity summary. So our total superannuation on our payroll activity summary report is 3618. And this amount needs to match the total superannuation on the trial balance report. So here's the superannuation, 3618. Those two amounts, they match. And finally, we move on to the tax. So on our payroll activity summary report, we can see we have a tax amount of 9042. The account in our trial balance report we need to look at is the pay-as-you-go withholding payable. Now, what we need to do is, this is almost a live account. Sometimes when you make payment to the ATO, you will allocate the pay-as-you-go withholding here, and it will change the balance around a little bit. So what you do is right-click and expand that information, and you just have to scroll all the way down and make sure that credit column totals 9042, which is that tax on our payroll activity summary. The reason for this is when you make a payment to the ATO for, say, your quarterly BAS or your IAS, which is pay-as-you-go withholding payable, that debits this account. So it changes the balance around. So it's not as easily as just looking at the closing balance, because there's movement in this account. So always just expand it, and I'll do that again for you. Just open these up to expand the transactions and look down all the way at the bottom to see what's being credited to the account in total, and that's our total tax that will match. So now that all of the balances match, we can move on to step 3. If any of those balances don't match, any of the tax, the super, the earnings, you need to investigate why, and an adjustment would need to be processed. So to process an adjustment, we do recommend processing an unscheduled pay run to correct the issue. And once the adjustment has been made, you need to refile the pay run to the ATO. So some common reasons why your balances might be different could be that you paid your employee a different amount from the bank account to what was processed in the pay run. You have your deductions or reimbursements set up going to the wrong account, or when you have reconciled and allocated those wages and super payments out of your bank account, you've allocated them to the wrong account in Xero. So they're just those few common reasons. There are others, but it's important to investigate any discrepancies, because any discrepancies here between these two reports will mean that the STP data you're filing to the ATO isn't correct. So if we're happy with all those reports and amounts, and we are in my instance, we can now move on. So I'll just go back to our slide. Sorry. Okay, so we'll go now into finalizing our single touch payroll data. So this is the main process, the main step that you're probably looking for, processing the STP finalization. So keep in mind that if you are enrolled in STP phase 2, this year you may notice some changes in comparison to prior years, but it should be minor. I'll just jump back into our demo company. And I'll just maximize that screen. So first off, what I like to do is I like to get a PDF or a printout of the payroll employee summary for the financial year. So I'll navigate back to our reports screen, just like we did earlier, and I'll search that report. So that's that payroll employee summary report. I'll generate that for this financial year and all employees. I've only got one employee. So I'm going to export that as a PDF, and we'll keep it aside, and we're going to pick it up later to reference it. Now, from our dashboard, so our homepage of Xero, I'm going to navigate back to there now. What you need to do is you need to click on the payroll tab and single touch payroll. Okay, so in the top right-hand corner, we want to ensure that the tax year is set correctly. So we are doing the 2022-2023 STP finalisation. So that's correct. We don't need to change that. Navigate over to the finalisation tab, and the list of employees that need to have their STP finalised will appear here. If one of your employees does not appear on the list, you can review their employment start date and their employment basis in their employee profile, and that will fix that up. So all my employees are appearing here. I'm going to tick the checkbox right on the left-hand side of all their names to select them all. And I'm going to click Start Finalisation button down the bottom. Okay, so this brings up the first screen of the finalisation process. This is our ability to review. And we need to look at all the details. We can see everything here. We can see their finalisation status, everything is there. So if I clicked on any one of these employees, it would bring up all the STP data that is going to be finalised to the ATO. So for example, James LeBron, he's my employee from March 2022. He's full-time, salary and wages, there's his date of birth, everything like that. And he has no gross payments or super or tax to report to the ATO this year. So he's getting a nil payment summary. So I'll go back and I'll click on someone that I know has data for this example, Odette Garrison. So I click on this employee to expand their data, and I can see here all of that information, just like the previous employee. This is what I like to match up to that payroll employee report that we previously exported. So I can see the gross payments of $4,200. I'm just going to bring that up. Here's that employee here. And we can see $4,200 on the earnings, and that matches that $4,200 in the gross payments here. If I scroll down, we can see that we're reporting for her $3,618 in super. That matches that line item here. And I can see that we're reporting 9042 in total tax withholding, and that matches that line there, tax, on that payroll employee summary. So once I've reviewed all of my individuals on that list and I'm happy with all those totals that are going to go to the ATO, you can export this to a CSV to keep it on record. Once exported and all reviewed, you can just hit next down the bottom. This is in our ability to review the submission before we finalize it. So we'll review the finalization summary to check this for accuracy at the top. We'll read the authorization to file declaration, and you can see that the number of employees that will have their STP data finalized and submitted to the ATO is 5 in this instance. There they all are there. Once you're happy with all of that information, you will need to accept the declaration and hit submit to the ATO. What that does now is it takes you back to the main screen. It submits all your STP data off to the ATO, and it is now pending. Now that can take a few hours, a couple of days, depending on processing times of the time of financial year that you're doing this, but that will sit as pending. But you've done everything that you need to now in order to submit that STP finalization to the ATO for all your payroll. Now the employees will receive their income statement in their MyGov account. So I'm just going to jump back into our slideshow now. So now that we've addressed how to complete the STP finalization in Xero and we've finalized our STP, we did want to take the opportunity to take a moment and touch on some important payroll items that you need to remember. First of all, paying superannuation for all employees by the due date each quarter. So with the introduction of STP, the ATO is now more focused than ever in ensuring that employees are up to date with this obligation. We have certainly seen in the past 12 months an increase in audit activity in this space. So superannuation is due quarterly by the 28th of the following month of quarter end. So for example, quarter end 30 June 2023, all super must be paid and received by the employees' funds by the 28th of July. As soon as super is paid late, you are required by law to prepare and submit a super guarantee charge statement and pay interest and administration penalties. So that's really important to keep in mind. From 1 July 2023, the super contribution rate is going to increase to 11%, but Xero will have automatically made this update for you, but it's just important to keep in mind. As of 1 July 2023, Fair Work increased the minimum wage, which may have impacted the award that your employee is paid under, and your employee may be entitled to an increase in their salary. Please be sure to check Fair Work website to ensure that you are paying the correct wage and overtime and allowances amounts based on the awards set out by Fair Work. If in doubt, do reach out to Fair Work for clarification, as this can be a little bit of a difficult space to navigate. Filing STP after each pay event is also something important to continue to remember. Ensure you do this process as soon as you process the pay run in Xero. As of 1 July 2023, the ATO is now pre-filling BASs and IASs with the wages information and pay-as-you-go withholding information. So ensuring that your STP filing is done with each and every pay run straight away will ensure that this process is made easier and you can take advantage of that automation that's coming now from the ATO. Now is also the perfect time of year to submit your work cover rateable remuneration figures and complete your estimate for the new financial year. So at the end of every year, you need to let your WorkSafe agent know what your actual annual rateable remuneration was. And this is what helps calculate your work cover premium. So be sure to include wages, superannuation, and payments to any rateable contractors here. And finally, if you are registered for payroll tax, you can now complete the end of year reconciliation submission. Payroll tax in Victoria is for those employers who have a total wages, including super, of over $700,000. Okay, so reflecting back on today's session, your STP finalisation in Xero must be completed by the 14th of July 2023. We do encourage you to complete this as early as possible. You will need to have your Xero file reconciled up until the end of financial year to ensure that any wages and super payments are allocated accordingly. You will not have accurate reports to use if your bank reconciliation has not been completed and brought up to date. Adjustments should be made in Xero to correct any issues that you identify in matching reports. If you don't correct issues, this will mean that you need to amend STP finalisation in the future, and that makes it really difficult for your employees, for example, who like to prepare and lodge their tax return early on in the financial year. They'll then be stung with an amendment. And finally, we took you through some really key payroll items to remember at this time of year, as this is an ever-changing space and there's always a lot of high risk and increased audit activity that we need to be aware of. So thank you so much for participating in today's session. We hope this has made your STP finalisation process easier, more straightforward, and more accurate. If you do require assistance in completing this, please do reach out to our team. We will be happy to help you. Thank you again, and we look forward to working with you in the new financial year.